A girl with empty plates smiled alone at the picnic, until the millionaire's daughter appeared. A child's smile can hide the deepest sadness, especially when that child must pretend to have everything when in reality they have nothing. In Central Park, in New York City, entire families gathered every Sunday for cheerful picnics, but one small, lonely presence stood out for her determination to maintain dignity even in the face of great adversity. That's exactly what happened when Destiny, just 7 years old, carefully arranged her 2 empty plates on a torn blanket she had found in the trash. She smiled and talked to herself, pretending to serve a non-existent meal while other families around enjoyed their abundant picnic baskets. This chocolate cake is delicious," she murmured to herself, bringing the empty spoon to her mouth. The little girl with dark skin and curly hair had learned this act in recent months, ever since her grandmother Dorothy had become too ill to get out of bed. It was better to pretend everything was fine than to admit they didn't even have money for breakfast. Across the park, Emma Campbell watched the strange scene while firmly holding the handle of her wicker basket filled with sandwiches, fruits, and sweets. The 6-year-old girl, with her neatly combed blonde hair and impeccable white dress, couldn't understand why that other child was playing alone with empty plates. "Daddy, why doesn't that girl have any food?" she asked Richard Campbell, who was busy reading the financial newspaper even during the family outing. "Don't meddle in other people's lives, Emma. Every family handles their own problems," he replied without looking up from the newspaper. But Emma couldn't stop staring. There was something in Destiny's forced smile that touched her heart in a way she couldn't yet explain. When her parents got distracted talking with other couples from the club, Emma took her basket and walked determinedly to the torn blanket. "Can I sit here with you?" she asked timidly. Destiny looked up, surprised. It was the first time in weeks that someone had spoken to her in the park. The other children always played in groups, and she had learned to keep her distance to avoid embarrassment. "Of course. I was just finishing my lunch," said Destiny, trying to sound casual. Emma sat on the blanket and opened her basket, revealing an impressive amount of food. Destiny's stomach growled loudly, but she pretended not to notice. "Want to share? My mom always packs too much food," offered Emma, extending a sandwich. "Oh, thank you, but I already ate," Destiny refused proudly, even as saliva formed in her mouth at the sight of the fresh bread. Emma noticed that Destiny's plates were completely clean, without even a crumb of food. Her childish yet perceptive eyes caught the kind lie. "You know, I hate eating alone. My parents are always talking with the adults and I get bored," Emma insisted. "Would you do me a favor by eating with me?" Destiny hesitated. Her grandmother always said never to accept handouts, but the way Emma asked made it seem like she was helping, not receiving help. "Just a little bit then," she murmured, taking half a sandwich with trembling hands. The first bite was like a gift from heaven. Destiny had to control herself not to devour it all at once, chewing slowly to not show how hungry she was. "What's your name?" asked Emma. "Destiny. And you?" "Emma. Do you live around here?" Destiny vaguely pointed in a direction. "I live with my grandmother. She hasn't been feeling well lately." "My grandmother gets sick sometimes too," Emma shared, not imagining that Destiny's grandmother's illness was much more serious than a simple cold. The 2 girls spent the entire afternoon talking and playing. Emma discovered that Destiny was funny, smart, and knew how to tell incredible stories about the neighbors in the tenement where she lived. Destiny, in turn, was charmed by Emma's genuine kindness, as she didn't ask prying questions about her situation. When the sun began to set, Richard Campbell finally put away his newspaper and called for his daughter. "Emma, let's go." "Coming, Daddy," she shouted back, then turned to Destiny. "Do you come here every Sunday?" "I do," Destiny lied. In truth, that was only the second time she had managed to leave the house in recent weeks. "Then I'll see you next Sunday." Emma smiled and ran toward her parents, intentionally leaving some candies on the blanket. Destiny looked at the abandoned candies, and after making sure no one was watching, carefully tucked them into her pockets to take home. Maybe she could make her grandmother smile a little. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now, continuing. During the week, Emma couldn't stop thinking about Destiny. She asked the housekeeper, Ms. Gladys, if she knew anything about a girl who played alone in the park. "Child, why all this curiosity?" asked the housekeeper while brushing Emma's hair. "It's just that she seemed sad, even when she smiled," Emma explained with the sincerity of children. Ms. Gladys, a 50-year-old woman who had worked for the Campbell family for over a decade, felt a pang in her heart. She herself had grown up in poverty and recognized the signs. "Sometimes people smile to hide their pain, dear," she said softly. The following Sunday, Emma convinced her parents to go to the park earlier. She had prepared an extra basket, pretending it was to share with other children, but really thinking of Destiny. Arriving at the usual spot, Emma anxiously looked for her new friend. Destiny wasn't there. Emma waited, played with other children, but kept her eyes on the place where they had met. It was already late when a small, hesitant figure appeared among the trees. Destiny arrived walking slowly, carrying the same torn blanket and just one plate this time. She had sold the other to buy medicine for her grandmother, but didn't want Emma to know that. "Destiny!" Emma shouted excitedly, running to hug her friend. "Hi, Emma," Destiny smiled, genuinely happy to see her again. "I brought more things today. My mom made some chocolate truffles." Emma proudly showed off the new basket. The two sat on the blanket and began talking like old friends. Emma talked about her private school, her piano and swimming lessons. Destiny talked about the cats she fed on the street and how she helped the older neighbors with their shopping. "Is your grandmother feeling better?" asked Emma. Destiny lowered her eyes. "Not really. She needs some expensive medicines, but we'll manage. My dad has a big company. Maybe he can get a job for your grandmother when she's better," Emma suggested innocently. "My grandmother has worked hard all her life. Now it's my turn to take care of her," Destiny replied with impressive maturity for her 7 years. While the girls talked, Richard watched from a distance with growing discomfort. This friendship didn't sit well with him at all. He had built a business empire and knew very well that people in vulnerable situations might try to take advantage of his family. "Gladys, have you seen what kind of child our daughter is playing with?" he said to the housekeeper. "Yes, I have, Mr. Campbell. She seems like a well-mannered girl," she replied cautiously. "Well-mannered. Look at her clothes, the blanket. It's obvious she comes from a troubled family. I don't want Emma mixing with those people." Gladys felt the urge to argue, but she knew it wasn't her place to question the employer's decisions. When they arrived home, Richard called Emma for a serious talk. "Sweetheart, that girl you played with at the park, I think you should find other friends." "Why, Daddy? Destiny is really nice," protested Emma. "Emma, you don't understand yet, but sometimes people get close to us out of interest. That family might be trying to take advantage of us. But she doesn't even know you're rich. I didn't say anything about that." Richard sighed. "Sweetheart, it's easy to find out who we are. Our car, our clothes, everything shows our status. Trust me, it's better to keep our distance." Emma cried a lot that night. She couldn't understand how her father, who always told her to be kind to everyone, was now forbidding her only true friend. The following week, Emma tried to disobey. She told her parents she wanted to play at the park with the other children from the condominium, but she was actually hoping to meet Destiny. Destiny showed up punctually, carrying her blanket and a clean plate, but this time she looked thinner, more tired. "Hi, Destiny, I missed you." Emma ran to hug her. "Hi, Emma." The reply came weakly. "Are you okay?" "I'm fine. Just a little tired," Destiny lied. The truth was, she hadn't eaten in 2 days. The neighbors who helped were also going through hard times, and her grandmother had gotten much worse. Destiny spent her nights awake, taking care of her, and her days looking for small jobs to earn some money. Emma opened her basket and offered food, but this time Destiny hesitated more than usual. "Please take it. I brought it thinking of you," Emma insisted. Destiny finally accepted, but with the first bite her wobbly legs gave way. She fainted right there on the blanket, frightening Emma and drawing attention from everyone in the park. "Help! Someone help!" Emma screamed desperately. Richard ran over with other adults. Upon seeing Destiny passed out, His first reaction was irritation, not compassion. "I knew this friendship would cause trouble," he murmured to his wife. A lady from the park offered water and cookies. Destiny woke up slowly, embarrassed by the situation. "Sorry, Emma. I think I got up too fast," she tried to explain. But Emma wasn't foolish. She saw how Destiny devoured the offered cookies and finally understood what was happening. "Dad, Destiny needs our help," she said determinedly. "Emma, we're leaving now," Richard ordered firmly. "But Dad, now!" During the drive home, Emma cried copiously in the back seat of the car. Her mother, Jennifer, who had remained silent, finally spoke up. "Richard, that child was starving." "So what? We're not responsible for every poor person in the city, Jennifer. We are responsible for teaching our daughter compassion. What I'm teaching is prudence. These people know very well how to arouse pity to get money." Jennifer was shocked by her husband's coldness. "Richard, she's 7 years old." "The mother must have taught her to put on this act." "What mother? The girl said she lives only with her grandmother." Richard didn't want to discuss the matter further. In his mind, he was protecting the family from possible opportunists. On Monday, Emma refused to eat breakfast. "I'm not hungry," she said, pushing the plate away. "Emma, you need to eat to go to school," said Gladys. "Destiny doesn't have food either, and no one cares," the girl replied. Gladys felt her heart tighten. She knew exactly what it was like to go hungry as a child. During lunch, Emma again refused the food, and at dinner the same. "What's happening with our daughter?" asked Jennifer worriedly. "She's throwing a tantrum because of that girl from the park," Richard answered irritably. "It's not a tantrum, Daddy. How can I eat knowing my friend is hungry?" Emma's attitude continued in the following days. She ate only the bare minimum and kept saying she couldn't enjoy food while thinking about Destiny. Gladys, watching the girl's suffering, made a decision. On Thursday afternoon, after Richard left for a business meeting, she took a bag of food and asked Jennifer to watch Emma for a few hours. "Where are you going, Gladys?" asked Emma hopefully. "I'm going to take care of some business, dear." Gladys took a taxi and went to Central Park. She asked local vendors about a girl who used to play alone on Sundays. A popcorn vendor pointed to the tenement on Harlem Street where she supposedly lived. The place was worse than Gladys had imagined. Several small rooms divided by thin wooden walls, with only a common area where the bathrooms and laundry sinks were located. The smell of dampness and lack of ventilation made the environment suffocating. Gladys asked for Destiny and was directed to the room at the end of the hallway. She knocked lightly on the door and a weak voice answered, "Come in, it's open." When she opened the door, Gladys was faced with a scene that made her cry instantly. On an old bed lay a black lady with greying hair, visibly very ill. On the floor, on a thin mattress, slept Destiny, hugging a worn-out teddy bear. "Excuse me, ma'am. My name is Gladys. I'm a friend of Emma, who plays with your granddaughter in the park." Destiny's grandmother, Dorothy, tried to get up but had no strength. "Please stay lying down," Gladys requested, approaching the bed. "Do you know my Destiny?" asked Dorothy in a hoarse voice. "Yes, I do. And I came here because I heard you need help." Destiny woke up to the voices and was startled to see a stranger in the room. "Destiny, remember me. I'm Gladys, who works at Emma's house." Destiny's eyes lit up. "Is Emma okay? I haven't seen her in a while." "She's worried about you, so much so that she can't even eat properly." Gladys began taking food out of the bag. Bread, fruit, milk, basic cold medicine she had bought at the pharmacy. "I can't accept this," said Dorothy with dignity. "I've always worked honestly to support my granddaughter." "I know that, Ms. Dorothy, but accepting help when we need it is no shame. It's human." Destiny looked at the food with shining eyes, but waited for her grandmother's approval. "Grandma, please, you need to get better," she begged. Gladys sat on the edge of the bed and held Dorothy's hand. "Ma'am, I also grew up in difficult circumstances. I know the pride of those who have always worked hard in life. But sometimes we need to accept an extended hand to be able to move forward." Dorothy began to cry. "I worked so hard. I was a housekeeper my whole life, raised my daughter alone. When she left looking for work, I promised I would take care of Destiny. But now I can't even get out of bed." "Where did your daughter go?" "Newark. She got a job at a factory there. She sends money when she can, but it's hard for everyone. Gladys understood the whole situation. A sick grandmother trying to care for a young granddaughter, depending on irregular remittances from a daughter who was also struggling to survive. "Destiny, come here," called Gladys. "Emma really wants to see you again. How about if I came to pick you up on Sunday so you can play together?" "But what about Grandma?" asked Destiny worriedly. "I'll arrange for someone to stay with your grandmother while you play. A child needs to be a child." Dorothy squeezed Gladys's hand. "You are an angel." "I'm no angel, I'm just someone who knows the value of solidarity." Gladys returned home with a heavy heart, but determined to help. She told Jennifer about the situation, only omitting that she had disobeyed Richard's orders. "My goodness, Gladys. That child was truly in need." Jennifer was shocked. "You saw how Emma reacted. Children have a sensitivity that sometimes we adults lose." Jennifer spent the night thinking about the conversation. The next morning, when Richard left for work, she called Gladys for a talk. "I want to help that family, but Richard can't know for now." "How so, Ms. Jennifer?" "I'll find a way to help financially, but I need Richard to think helping was his idea. Do you understand me?" Gladys smiled. "Perfectly. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing. The two women began planning a strategy. Jennifer would send money and supplies regularly, using Gladys as an intermediary. Meanwhile, they would try to find a way to win Richard over. On Sunday, Gladys convinced Richard that it would be good for Emma to play in the park again, promising she would supervise the girls' friendships. What Richard didn't know is that Gladys had arranged to pick up Destiny at home and bring her to the park. Emma burst with joy when she saw Destiny arriving at the park accompanied by Gladys. "Destiny!" she shouted, running to hug her friend. "Emma, I missed you so much," replied Destiny, equally happy. The two girls sat on the blanket, now clean and without tears. Gladys had provided a new one. Emma opened her basket and offered food, but this time Destiny didn't hesitate to accept. "How is your grandmother?" Emma asked worriedly. "Getting a little better. A very good person is helping us." Emma looked at Gladys, who signaled for her not to comment. Richard watched from a distance, still suspicious, but had to admit that the girls' friendship seemed genuine. Destiny didn't ask for anything, didn't mention any difficulties, just played like any normal child. During the afternoon, the girls played with dolls, told stories, and laughed a lot. Emma taught Destiny some songs she had learned at school, and Destiny taught Emma street games she had learned from the neighbors. "Emma, you're very lucky," Destiny said at one point. "Why?" "Your parents love you very much. You can tell by the way they look at you." Emma looked toward her parents, who were talking with other couples but always kept an eye on her. "Your parents love you too. Your grandmother takes care of you." "That's true. But sometimes I'm afraid." "Afraid of what?" Destiny hesitated. "That she gets very sick and I'm left alone. My mother is far away." Emma felt a pang in her heart. She had never thought about the possibility of being without her parents, but realized that for Destiny, this was a real and constant worry. "You know what I think?" Emma said determinedly. "I think we'll always be friends, and friends take care of each other. Even if I'm poor and you're rich?" Emma stopped playing. "Do you know my family has money?" "It's easy to tell, but that doesn't matter. You're the first person who wanted to be my real friend." The two sealed a friendship pact, promising to always be there for each other, no matter the circumstances. When it was time to leave, Richard noticed that Destiny politely said goodbye to everyone, thanked them for the afternoon, and went to the bus stop accompanied by Gladys. "The girl has good manners," he commented to Jennifer. "Manners have nothing to do with money, Richard." "Sometimes not." During dinner, Emma excitedly told them about the afternoon at the park, talking about the games and stories Destiny had shared. "Dad, Destiny is very smart. She can do math in her head and knows the names of all the plants in the park." Richard began to grow curious about this girl who had made such an impression on his daughter. On Monday, he discreetly asked Gladys about Destiny's family. "What do you know about that child, Gladys?" Gladys chose her words carefully. She's a very polite and intelligent girl, lives with her grandmother, who is ill. Her mother works in another city. And the father? Haven't heard about a father, Mr. Campbell. Richard thought about the situation. A single mother struggling to support the family, a sick grandmother, a child being raised in difficult circumstances, yet maintaining her manners and dignity. Throughout the week, he couldn't stop thinking about it. There was something about the situation that bothered him, but he couldn't identify what. On Wednesday, Richard had a meeting with his accountant about some labor issues at the company. During the conversation, the topic shifted to social responsibility. Mr. Campbell, many companies nowadays invest in social programs. Besides helping the community, it improves the company's image, commented the accountant. What kind of programs? Scholarships, medical assistance for needy families, vocational training. There are even companies that offer jobs to people in vulnerable situations. Richard left the meeting thoughtful. Perhaps there was a way to help that family without it seeming like charity, but as part of a company social program. The following Sunday, Richard paid more attention to Destiny. He observed how she played with Emma, how she expressed herself, how she reacted to situations. He was impressed by the girl's maturity, who at 7 years old already showed responsibility and concern for her grandmother that many adults don't have. During a moment when the girls were playing further away, Richard approached Gladys. "Gladys, do you know much about that girl's family situation?" "A little, Mr. Campbell." "Is the grandmother very ill?" "Yes, she is. She would need some medicine and medical follow-up, but they don't have the financial means." Richard became thoughtful. "And the mother, what is she like?" "From what I've heard, she's a hard-working young woman. Left the city to get a job at a factory. It wasn't from lack of responsibility, it was out of necessity." "Do you think she would return if she had a job opportunity here?" Gladys hid her smile. Jennifer's plan was working. "I think any mother would prefer to stay close to her daughter, Mr. Campbell." That evening, Richard spoke with Jennifer about the possibility of implementing a social assistance program at the company. "That's an interesting idea, Richard. We could start with some families in more vulnerable situations." "That's what I was thinking. Maybe even offer jobs to qualified people who are unemployed." Jennifer pretended to be surprised. "You would be willing to do that?" "Why not? It's good for the company and for the community." The next day, Richard asked Gladys to get information about Destiny's mother. Full name, qualifications, work experience. Gladys returned on Thursday with the information. Destiny's mother is named Tanya Williams Johnson. Worked for years as an administrative assistant before becoming unemployed. She's very responsible and has good references. Richard analyzed the resume that Gladys had obtained. Tanya really seemed to be a competent and reliable employee. "Gladys, what if I offered a position at the company to this young woman? That way she could return to care for her daughter and mother." Gladys pretended to consider the idea for the first time. "It would be a very good opportunity for the family, Mr. Campbell." "Then let's do it this way. You contact her and schedule an interview for next week." Gladys could barely contain her joy. "I'll arrange everything, sir." The following Sunday, Destiny arrived at the park more excited than usual. Gladys had mentioned that perhaps her mother could get a job in New York City and be able to come back home. "Emma, I think my mother is coming back," she said anxiously. "Really? That's wonderful. I really want to meet her." "You'll like her. She's very affectionate and tells funny stories." Richard observed Destiny's joy and felt a strange satisfaction. He still wasn't sure if he was making the right decision, but seeing that happy child touched something in his heart. Jennifer approached him. "What are you thinking about?" "I'm thinking that perhaps our daughter is teaching us something important about compassion." "How so?" Emma didn't see social differences when she met Destiny. She just saw a child who needed a friend. Maybe we should learn from that simplicity. On Tuesday, Tanya traveled from Newark to New York City for the job interview. Gladys met her at the company and took her to Richard's office. Tanya was a young woman of 25, with curly hair like her daughter's, expressive but tired eyes. She wore a simple dress shirt and a black skirt, clearly her best outfit. "Good morning, Mr. Campbell. Thank you very much for the opportunity," Tanya said politely. Richard was impressed with the young woman's demeanor. Despite her difficulties, she maintained dignity and professionalism. Miss Tanya, looking at your resume, I see you have experience as an administrative assistant. Yes, sir. I worked 3 years at an accounting firm before becoming unemployed. Why did you leave the job? Tanya hesitated. The company closed due to the crisis. I spent months looking for work here in New York City, but it was difficult. When the position in Newark came up, I had to take it, even though it meant being away from my family. I understand. And how is your family situation currently? My mother is sick, and my daughter is being cared for by her. It's a very difficult situation for all of us. Richard saw the sincerity in Tanya's eyes. There was no excessive drama, no attempt to evoke pity, just the honest exposure of a difficult reality. Miss Tanya, I'm implementing a social assistance program at the company. In addition to the salary, we offer medical assistance for the employee's family. Would you be interested in the position? Tanya's eyes filled with tears. Mr. Campbell, it would be the answer to all my prayers. Then welcome to the team. You can start next Monday. Tanya couldn't contain her emotion and cried with relief right there in the office. Richard was touched by the genuine reaction. Thank you, sir. I promise you won't regret it. I'm sure I won't. When Tanya left the office, Richard became thoughtful. There was something rewarding about being able to change an entire family's life with a simple decision. Gladys returned to the office to pick up some documents, and Richard commented, I think I made the right decision, Gladys. Absolutely, Mr. Campbell. Sometimes the good we do comes back to us in unexpected ways. The following Sunday, Destiny arrived at the park, beaming. Her mother had called the day before, confirming she would be coming home the following week. Emma, my mother got the job. She's coming back, she shouted excitedly. That's great. Now you'll be happier. I will, and I'll be able to play with you every Sunday without rushing. Richard watched Destiny's joy and felt good about his decision. Emma was also beaming, knowing her friend would finally have her family reunited. Dad, do you know the boss at the company who gave Destiny's mother the job? Emma asked innocently. Richard nearly choked on the juice he was drinking. Why do you ask? Because I want to thank him. He must be a very good person to give her that opportunity. He must be indeed, Richard replied, hiding his smile. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. This really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing. The following week, Tanya returned to New York City and began working at Richard's company. She was an exemplary employee, punctual, dedicated, efficient. Richard was pleased he had made the right decision. With her first paycheck, Tanya managed to pay for her mother's medicine and even rent a small 2-bedroom apartment in a better neighborhood. It wasn't luxurious, but it was decent and safe. Destiny was over the moon when she learned they would be leaving the tenement. Mom, will I have my own room? Yes, my dear, and your grandmother will have a room with better ventilation which will help with her recovery. Dorothy, with the proper medication and better nutrition, began to recover slowly. She wasn't 100% yet, but she could already get up and help with small household tasks. On the first Sunday after the move, Destiny arrived at the park with a new blanket and a small basket with some sandwiches her mother had prepared. Emma, look, now I can bring food to share with you too. Emma was moved. How wonderful, Destiny. Now we're equals. We're not equals, but we are friends, Destiny wisely corrected. The two sat on their blankets side by side and began to share the food each had brought. Other children in the park began to approach, curious about the special friendship between the two girls from such different social classes. Richard watched the scene with a strange feeling in his chest. His daughter had taught him a valuable lesson about prejudice and compassion. He had almost missed the opportunity to do a good deed because of his prejudices. What are you thinking about? Asked Jennifer. I'm thinking that our daughter is wiser than both of us combined. What do you mean? She saw a child in need of friendship and offered it without a second thought. We adults create 1,000 theories and prejudices. Jennifer smiled. Children have a purity that we lose throughout life. It's true. Emma made me see that we can make a difference in people's lives without it costing us anything. That afternoon, Richard made a decision that would change not only the life of Destiny's family, but also his own perspective on social responsibility. On Monday, Richard called Tanya for a conversation. "Tanya, how have you been adapting to the work?" "Very well, Mr. Campbell. I'm very grateful for the opportunity." "And your family, how are they?" "My mother is improving a lot. The medicine is working, and my daughter is happier knowing I won't have to travel anymore." "Great. Tanya, I'm thinking of expanding the company's social assistance program. Do you know other families in a situation similar to yours?" Tanya was surprised. "Yes, sir. In the tenement where I lived, there were several families going through hard times. Hard-working people, but without opportunities. Would you be interested in helping me identify these families?" "Of course, it would be an additional role with extra pay." "It would be an honor, Mr. Campbell." Richard began to implement a broader social program in his company. He offered job openings for unemployed people, scholarships for employees' children, and medical assistance for needy families. The news of the program spread quickly through the neighborhood where Destiny had previously lived. Many families applied for the positions, and Richard was impressed with the quality and dedication of the new employees. 3 months later, Richard's company had become a benchmark for social responsibility in the city. Local newspapers did stories on the program, and other business owners began to follow the example. At home, Emma followed everything with pride. "Daddy, you've become famous for helping people. It's not about being famous, Emma. It's about doing the right thing." "Was it Destiny who inspired you?" Richard laughed. "It was both of you who inspired me. You showed me that true friendship doesn't see social differences." The following Sunday, Richard had an idea. Instead of just watching the girls play, he decided to approach and get to know Destiny better. "Destiny, may I sit here with you?" "Of course, Uncle Richard," Destiny replied politely. "Emma tells me a lot about you. She says you're very smart." Destiny felt embarrassed. "I like learning new things." "What do you like learning most?" "I like math and history. My grandma tells stories from her time, and I find it very interesting." Richard talked with the girls for over an hour, asking questions about their future dreams, favorite games, and school subjects. He was impressed with Destiny's maturity and intelligence. When it was time to leave, Richard made an unexpected proposal. "Destiny, how about you come over for dinner one of these days? That way you can get to know our family better." Destiny looked at Emma excitedly. "Really, I can." "Of course, I'll ask your mother to bring you after work." Emma clapped her hands with joy. "Destiny, you're going to love seeing my house. I have so many toys to show you." That week, Richard spoke with Tanya about the invitation. "Mr. Campbell, I'm not sure if it's appropriate. Tanya, Emma, and Destiny are friends. It's normal for us to want to get to know our children's friends better." "I'm afraid Destiny might feel uncomfortable. The social difference is very big." Richard thought about the comment. "You're right. How about we do something different? How about if you all came for lunch on Sunday? That way it would be more casual, right here in the park. We could have a big picnic." Tanya smiled. "That idea is better. Destiny would feel more at ease." The following Sunday, Richard organized a special picnic. He brought a folding table, chairs, a large blanket, and plenty of food. Tanya arrived with Destiny and Dorothy, who was already much better in health. "Miss Dorothy, it's a pleasure to meet you," Richard said politely. "The pleasure is mine, Mr. Campbell. Thank you so much for everything you've done for our family." "I'm the one who should thank you. Your granddaughter taught me a very important lesson about generosity." During lunch, Richard talked at length with Dorothy. He discovered that she had worked her whole life as a housekeeper, always with excellent references. She had raised her daughter alone after being abandoned by her husband, and now helped raise her granddaughter with the same dedication. "Miss Dorothy, you have a beautiful family. Destiny and Tanya are special people. I've always tried to teach them that poverty is not something to be ashamed of, but something to fight against, and that education and respect are the greatest treasures we can have." Richard was touched by the woman's words. "You've managed to teach that very well." While the adults talked, Emma and Destiny played with other children who were also in the park. Richard observed how Destiny interacted with everyone in a kind and inclusive way, always sharing her toys and helping the younger children. "Jennifer, do you see how Destiny behaves?" he commented quietly. "I do. She's a child with a huge heart. You know what I'm thinking? Destiny has potential for much more than the public school can offer." Jennifer understood where her husband was going. "Are you thinking of offering a scholarship?" "I am. What harm would there be in including her in the company's scholarship program?" "No harm at all. On the contrary, it would be another opportunity to help a family that deserves it." Richard made the decision right then. At the end of the picnic, he called Tanya for a private conversation. "Tanya, have you thought about Destiny's education?" "Always, Mr. Campbell. I want her to have the opportunities I never had." "What if I told you I could offer a full scholarship to a very good private school?" Tanya was speechless. "Sir, that would be... I don't even know how to thank you." "No need to thank me. Destiny is a special girl. She deserves every opportunity possible. But I can't afford... It's a full scholarship. It won't cost you anything. The company has a scholarship program for employees' children and families in vulnerable situations." Tanya began to cry with emotion. "You don't know what this means to us." "Oh, I do. It means Destiny will be able to dream bigger." When Richard told the girls about the scholarship, they were overjoyed. "Destiny, we're going to the same school," shouted Emma. "Really? We'll be classmates too?" Destiny could hardly believe it. "Yes, we will. It's going to be the coolest thing ever." Richard watched the girls' joy and felt a deep satisfaction. His life had completely changed since Emma met Destiny. He had discovered a satisfaction that no business or profit had ever given him, the satisfaction of doing good. 6 months later, Destiny was fully settled into her new school. She was one of the top students in her class, especially in math and English. The teachers praised not only her intelligence, but also her kindness toward her classmates. Emma and Destiny became inseparable at school. They studied together, played together at recess, and Emma always made sure to include Destiny in every activity. One day, the school principal called Richard for a meeting. "Mr. Campbell, I wanted to talk to you about Destiny." Richard grew worried. "Did she do something wrong?" "On the contrary, Destiny is an exemplary student. In fact, I wanted to propose that she participate in a special program for gifted students." "Gifted?" "Yes. Destiny demonstrates abilities well above average for her age, especially in logical reasoning and math. She can solve problems that students 2 years older struggle with." Richard felt proud. "And what does this program offer?" "Extra classes in advanced math, science, and preparation for academic competitions. It's completely free, sponsored by an educational foundation. I'm sure Destiny will love that." When Richard shared the news with Tanya, she cried with emotion once again. "Mr. Campbell, how can I ever repay everything you've done for us?" "Tanya, you repay it every day by being an exemplary employee, and Destiny repays it by being a wonderful friend to Emma." "But it's so little compared to all we've received. Let me tell you a secret, Tanya. The one who gained the most from all this was me. Emma taught me about compassion, Destiny taught me about dignity, and you taught me about dedication. My life changed for the better." And it was true. Richard had discovered a new perspective on success and happiness. His business prospered even more, as the company's image had significantly improved with the social program. But more importantly, he had discovered the satisfaction of making a difference in people's lives. 2 years passed. Destiny, now 9 years old, had become a bit of a celebrity at school for her academic achievements. She won several medals in math and science competitions, always sharing the credit with Emma, who supported her in everything. One day, the school organized a science fair. Destiny and Emma decided to do a project together on sustainability and social responsibility. "Emma, what if we do a project about how companies can help communities?" suggested Destiny. "I love that idea. We can use my dad's company as an example." The girls worked hard on the project, interviewing employees at Richard's company, researching other social programs, creating charts and statistics. On the day of the fair, their project caught the attention of all the visitors. There were business owners, educators, parents, and students watching the presentation. "Our project shows how small actions can lead to big changes," Destiny explained confidently. When companies invest in communities, everyone benefits, Emma added. Richard watched the presentation with tears in his eyes. His two girls had become little ambassadors of social responsibility. At the end of the fair, the girls won first place in the social impact category. During the acceptance speech, Destiny made sure to mention Richard. "I want to thank Mr. Richard Campbell, who showed us that doing good is always the right path. He changed my family's life and many other families' lives, proving that generosity is contagious." Richard went up on stage to hug the girls, visibly emotional. "Actually, they're the ones who changed my life," he said into the microphone. "Emma taught me about unconditional love, and Destiny taught me about dignity and perseverance. I'm the one who should be thanking them." The audience applauded emotionally. In that moment, Richard understood that this was one of the most important achievements of his life. After the fair, the families went to celebrate in the same park where it had all begun. They sat in the same spots, but now with a plentiful table shared by everyone. "Destiny, do you remember when we met here?" asked Emma. "Yes, I remember. I was pretending I had food on my empty plates. And I felt sad seeing you all alone. I'm glad you came to talk to me. If you hadn't, none of this would have happened." Richard watched the girls' conversation and reflected on how small actions can change the course of many lives. If Emma hadn't had the courage to approach Destiny that first Sunday, if he hadn't given Tanya a chance, if he hadn't overcome his prejudices— "What are you thinking about?" asked Jennifer. "I'm thinking about how fragile we are, how our lives can change completely because of one small gesture." "Was it a small gesture that changed everything?" "Yes. The gesture of a 6-year-old child who decided to share her food with a stranger. That gesture changed how I see the world." Dorothy, who was now fully recovered and working part-time as a kitchen assistant at the girls' school, approached Richard. "Mr. Richard, can I say something?" "Of course, Miss Dorothy. You saved our family, but I want you to know that we will always remember that it all started with Emma's kindness. She was our first angel." Richard looked at Emma, who was playing carefree with Destiny, and felt proud of the daughter he had raised. "Emma has always had a generous heart. Maybe that's the greatest legacy we can leave our children, the ability to see the humanity in others." Tanya, who had just arrived straight from work, joined the group. "How was the meeting with the new client?" asked Richard. "Very well, Mr. Campbell. We closed the contract. The company is growing a lot with the social program." Richard smiled. "We discovered that doing good is also good business. It's true. Our employees are more motivated, our market image has improved, and we attract clients who value social responsibility." That night when they got home, Richard and Jennifer put Emma to bed and stayed talking in the living room. "Richard, do you regret anything in this whole story?" "Yes, I do. I regret taking so long to see what was right in front of me." "What do you mean?" "I regret having questioned Emma's friendship with Destiny, of having thought that family might be opportunistic, of letting my prejudices speak louder than my humanity." "But you recognized the mistake and corrected course." "Yes, but I almost missed the opportunity to make a difference in the lives of people who truly deserved a chance." Jennifer held her husband's hand. "What matters is that you learned, and look how many lives were positively touched because of that change." Richard thought of all the employees who had been hired through the social program, the families that had been helped, the children who had received scholarships. "You know, Jennifer, I think I've discovered what the true purpose of wealth is." "What?" "It's not to accumulate for oneself. It's to use the resources we have to create opportunities for others. Wealth only makes sense when it's shared." 3 years had passed since the first meeting in the park. Destiny, now 10 years old, had become a little academic prodigy. Besides winning medals in academic competitions, she had created her own social project at school, a tutoring program where older students helped struggling students. Emma, always by her friend's side, had developed a special interest in child psychology, inspired by how Destiny was able to motivate and help other children. Richard had expanded the company's social program to other cities. The initiative had become a national benchmark, and he received invitations to speak about corporate social responsibility. Tanya had been promoted to administrative supervisor and was attending night classes for a business administration degree, with a full scholarship offered by the company. Dorothy, fully recovered, had become the coordinator of the school lunch program, using her life experience to ensure no child at the school went hungry. But the most important thing wasn't the individual achievements. The most important thing was that the whole story had created a network of solidarity that spread far beyond the people directly involved. Other business owners in the city began creating similar programs. The girls' school became a benchmark for social inclusion. The neighborhood where Destiny previously lived was revitalized with social assistance programs. One Sunday, 5 years after the first meeting, the two families were again in Central Park. But now it wasn't just them. Several families helped by the social program were also there, in a big gathering. Richard watched the scene and was moved. Dozens of children playing together, regardless of social class. Parents talking and getting to know each other. Former employees who had started their own businesses, back to thank and share their achievements. "Emma, Destiny, come here," called Richard. The two girls, now 11 and 12, approached. "Do you remember how it all began?" "I remember," said Destiny. "I was alone with my empty plates, pretending I was eating. And I felt sorry and wanted to share my food," Emma added. "Do you know what that moment taught me?" asked Richard. "What?" the two asked in unison. "It taught me that a small act of kindness can change the world. Emma, when you decided to sit next to Destiny, you weren't just offering food. You were offering dignity, friendship, hope. And you, Destiny, when you accepted with politeness and gratitude, showed me that those in difficulty don't lose their class and dignity. You two taught me that humanity is in the small gestures." The girls listened quietly, understanding the importance of what Richard was saying. "Destiny, do you remember what you felt that first Sunday?" asked Emma. "I remember I was very hungry, but even hungrier for a friend. When you sat with me for the first time in months, I felt like a normal child." "What about you, Emma?" asked Destiny. "I remember feeling sad seeing you all alone. My grandma always said we should never eat alone when there's someone hungry nearby." Richard smiled. "You two have special hearts, and I want you to know you're the main reason for all the good things that happened since that day." That afternoon, Richard made a special announcement to everyone gathered in the park. "Folks, I want to take advantage of us all being together to make an important announcement." All conversations stopped and everyone paid attention. 5 years ago, my daughter Emma taught me a lesson that changed my life. She showed me that true wealth lies in our ability to share and help one another. Applause echoed through the park. That's why I'm officially announcing the creation of the Emma and Destiny Foundation, a non-profit organization dedicated to promoting educational and professional opportunities for families in vulnerable situations. The silence was broken by emotional applause. Tanya and Dorothy cried with emotion. Emma and Destiny looked at each other surprised and moved. The Foundation's mission will be to replicate the program we developed here in other cities. We want other children to have the same opportunities Destiny had, Richard continued, but most importantly, this foundation will be run by the very people who benefited from the program. Tanya will be the executive director, and Ms. Dorothy will be the social services coordinator. The two women couldn't stop crying. It was the ultimate recognition that they had overcome all adversities and could now help other families do the same. "What about Emma and Destiny?" asked someone from the crowd. "Emma and Destiny will be the Foundation's child ambassadors. They'll help us show other children that true friendship doesn't see social differences." The two girls climbed onto the small makeshift platform Richard had set up. "Destiny, would you like to say something?" asked Richard. Destiny took the microphone with trembling hands, but with a steady voice. 5 years ago, I was alone in this park, pretending I had food to avoid embarrassment. Today, I'm here surrounded by people who became my family. This happened because one girl had the courage to approach me and offer her friendship. She looked at Emma and continued, "Emma taught me that it doesn't matter where we come from or how much money we have. What matters is the size of our heart, and I want all the children here to know that you too can make a difference in someone's life. You just need the courage to reach out to those in need," added Emma, taking the microphone. "You don't need to wait until you're adults to help others. Sometimes a smile, a kind word, or a shared snack can completely change a person's life." Richard watched his two daughters, speaking with such wisdom and maturity, feeling immense paternal pride. After the speeches, the celebration continued with music, games, and food for everyone. Richard circulated among the guests, talking with each family, listening to their stories and their plans for the future. A former employee approached him. "Mr. Richard, I want you to know that the job you gave me didn't just change my life. It changed my whole family's life. My oldest son finished high school, my wife went back to school, we bought our own house." Richard became emotional. "And you think it was the job that changed all that?" "Yes, sir. It wasn't just the job. It was your dedication, your grit, your determination not to give up. The job was just an opportunity. You're the one who seized the opportunity." Conversations like this repeated throughout the afternoon. Richard realized that the most rewarding part wasn't the thanks, but seeing how each person had found their own strength and dignity. Late in the afternoon, when most guests had already left, the two families were alone in the park, just like old times. "Richard," said Dorothy, "may I ask you a question?" "Of course, Miss Dorothy." "What really motivated you to help our family? Was it only because of Emma?" Richard thought for a moment before answering. "Miss Dorothy, I'll be completely honest with you. At first I was resistant. I thought you might be trying to take advantage of our family." Dorothy nodded, showing no surprise or hurt. "But do you know what made me change my mind? It was noticing your dignity. Destiny never asked for anything, never complained, never tried to evoke pity. She kept her head held high, even in adversity. That impressed me deeply. And you, Tanya, when you came for the interview, you didn't arrive telling a sad story to gain compassion. You came as a professional looking for a job opportunity. That showed character." Tanya smiled. "My mother always taught me that we might be in difficulty, but we should never lose our dignity. And that's exactly what won me over. You showed me that helping isn't about charity. It's about recognizing people's worth and giving them opportunities to show their potential." At that moment, Destiny approached the group of adults. "Uncle Richard, may I ask a question?" "Of course, Destiny. Why did you decide to name the foundation after me along with Emma?" Richard crouched down to be at the girl's eye level. "Because you both represent the essence of the foundation. Emma represents generosity, the ability to see others' needs. You represent dignity, the strength to want to grow and help others grow too. Together, you show that our social background doesn't matter. What matters is our character, our willingness to do good, our ability to dream and fight for our dreams." Destiny looked thoughtful. "Uncle Richard, I have a dream." "What is it?" "I want to study hard and one day graduate so I can help other children like me. I want to be a doctor or a teacher. I haven't decided yet." "I'm sure you'll make it, Destiny, and more than that, I'm sure you'll make a difference in many people's lives." Emma joined the conversation. "Destiny, we'll achieve everything together. I want to help children too. We can work together." "That's right, Emma. Imagine how many children we can help." Richard watched the two girls making plans for the future and knew he had planted the right seeds. Those two girls wouldn't just be successful in their lives, but would forever carry the values of solidarity and compassion. The sun began to set, and it was time for everyone to go home. But before saying goodbye, Richard made sure to capture that special moment. "Everyone, let's take a picture here where it all began." They all positioned themselves in the same spot where Emma had sat with Destiny 5 years earlier. The torn blanket had been replaced by a beautiful towel, the empty plates were now full of food, and loneliness had given way to the love of an extended family. "Is everyone ready?" asked Jennifer, who was holding the camera. "Wait!" shouted Destiny. "Can I say something before the picture?" "Of course," said Richard. Destiny stood in the center of the group and looked at everyone present. "I want to thank every person here. Uncle Richard and Aunt Jennifer, who opened their hearts to our family. Aunt Gladys, who was our first help. Emma, who gave me the most precious gift, a true friendship." She turned to her own family. "Grandma, who taught me that poverty isn't shameful, but rather a reason to fight harder. Mum, who never gave up on giving the best to me, even when it seemed impossible. But most of all, I want to thank this park, which witnessed the beginning of our story. Here I learned that miracles exist. They happen when good people decide to make a difference in each other's lives. Everyone was moved by the words of the 12-year-old girl. "Now we can take the picture," said Destiny, smiling. "Wait just a little longer," said Richard. Destiny spoke so beautifully that I also want to say something. Richard positioned himself next to Emma and Destiny. 5 years ago, I was a financially successful businessman, but poor in spirit. I thought I had everything in life, but I actually didn't have the most important thing, the wisdom to recognize people's worth. Emma taught me about unconditional love. Destiny taught me about dignity. Tanya taught me about perseverance. Dorothy taught me about life wisdom. And all of you taught me that true wealth lies in human relationships. Today, I am a truly rich man. Rich in true friendships, rich in purpose, rich in satisfaction from knowing I can make a difference in the world. And all of this started with a 6-year-old girl who had the courage to approach another girl who was alone. "Emma, you changed my life and the lives of many others." Emma was embarrassed by the praise. "Daddy, I just did what I thought was right." "Exactly, my daughter. You did what you thought was right. And sometimes that's all it takes to change the world. Doing what we think is right, even when no one is watching, even when we won't get anything in return." Finally, they took the picture, capturing that historic moment, an image that captured much more than smiling faces. It captured the transformation of lives, the strength of friendship, the power of solidarity. When everyone was saying goodbye to leave, Destiny approached Richard once again. "Uncle Richard, can I talk to you for just a minute?" "Of course, Destiny." The two stepped away from the group a little. "I wanted to thank you for something special." "What?" "For giving me the chance to prove that I deserved the opportunities. You could have just helped our family and that's it. But you did more than that. You believed in me." Richard was moved by the girl's words. "Destiny, I didn't give you an opportunity. I just recognized the potential you already had. All your achievements were your own merit. But without the school, without the books, without the special program, I wouldn't have been able to discover what I was capable of." "That's true. But even if you hadn't had those opportunities, you would still be a special girl. What makes you special isn't the medals or the good grades. It's your character, your kindness, your determination." Destiny hugged Richard tightly. "Thank you for everything, Uncle Richard. I promise I'll make you proud of me." "Destiny, I'm already proud of you every day, and I'm sure you'll achieve everything you dream of." That night, before going to sleep, Richard wrote in his personal diary, a habit he had developed since the beginning of that whole story. "Today was the last Sunday in the park as a social project. From now on, it's no longer a project. It's family. Destiny and her family have become part of our family forever. 5 years ago, I thought wealth was having money. Today, I know that wealth is having people we love and who love us back. It's having purpose. It's knowing that our actions make a difference in the world. Emma taught me that love doesn't see social differences. Destiny taught me that dignity doesn't depend on financial condition. Together, they showed me that true education isn't what we receive in school, but what we receive from life, from relationships, from human experiences. Tomorrow, we begin a new phase with the foundation. We will bring this experience to other cities, to other families, but I know there will never be another story like this one, because this story has something special. It has the pure and sincere love of 2 children who met in a park and decided to be friends forever. Thank you, Emma. Thank you, Destiny. Thank you to everyone who was part of this journey. You have made me a better person." Richard closed the diary and went to sleep with a peaceful heart, knowing he had discovered the true meaning of life: to love and be loved, to help and be helped, to grow and help others grow along. And so, the story that began with a girl smiling alone with empty plates turned into a beautiful lesson about friendship, solidarity, and hope. A testament that small gestures can bring about great transformations and that true love knows no social barriers. End of story. Now tell us what you thought of this touching story about true friendship and social transformation. Do you believe small acts of kindness can truly change lives? Share your opinion in the comments and tell us where you follow us from. If this story moved you, don't forget to leave your like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss other inspiring stories that show the power of love and human solidarity.